Om Shanti. Our today's lesson is on the spiritual significance of the great epic of India, that is the Ramayana. We all know today in the world, Bharat's epics are so famous that even the Westerners have started taking interest in understanding what this epic is trying to tell us, or how it is related to human beings in the modern age. And actually it contains a message for the people in this age, because there is a Ramayana taking place in the lives of people also. So, how can we connect that epic with our present world or present lifestyle, so that we are able to have the solution also? Because these great epics give us the solution also of how to handle our lives through these present times. And therefore, understanding the significance of this epic unveils the mystery of so many subtle aspects of our life that we are able to apply them and make our lives more comfortable, more easy, so that we are able to lead a happy life. In this great epic of Ramayana, when we see the character of Ram, Sri Ram is such a character which is shown to be very faithful in his relationships. And at all different relationships, or at all levels of his life, we find that he knows the technique of how to maintain those relationships. Never throughout his life have we ever seen that Sri Ram ever had any negative thought towards anybody, whoever it was, whether it was Mantra, whether it was Ravan himself. But Sri Ram never had any negative thought for anybody, nor did he have any negative thoughts or negative attitudes for the situations that came up in his life. He never complained. But human beings in today's age, whenever any situation comes up, we start blaming others, we start complaining about others, that this person is responsible for this happening in my life. But Sri Ram is such a character. He also had to go through different type of situations, different type of circumstances. He also had to face some devilish characters, people also. There were so many events that were continuously happening in his life as well. But never could we see on his face any ray of dissatisfaction of life. So it also gives us a message of the art of living and how actually we are able to live a life of satisfaction or a happy life when we change our attitudes, when we stop complaining but accept things as they come and practically apply spirituality. Sri Ram had great spirituality in his life. So in the present time also, we are not just talking of that Ram who was the son of Dasarath, but actually there are three Rams. One Ram is the son of Dasarath. Another Ram is that which we call to the Supreme Being. He is also the Ram who is beyond all the sufferings and happiness, who is beyond all the dualities of life. Jagat se nyara Ram, the one who is beyond this worldly pleasures and pains. And the third Ram is Atma Ram. The soul is also depicted as Ram in the scriptures. So actually it is a story of the soul, Atma Ram, and the Supreme Ram. But they are personified as the son of Dasarath, Ram, and the whole Ramayana is being shown to us. If we see in the present time how it is connected with Atma Ram and the Supreme Soul Ram, we shall see that in the modern age, the human being's life is like a battlefield. And when it is like a battlefield, there is a constant war going on between the good and evil. Evil is shown as the negative forces or the asuras or the devils who were connected with Ravan, and the good who were connected with Ram. The positive forces that were connected with Ram's life. In the present time, if we find that in this war, whenever any human being tries to challenge Ravan, he was such a character that he could adopt various forms. And sometimes he would adopt such a form of deceit that hardly people are able to recognize. In the modern times as well, when human beings are also leading this life, sometimes the negativity also comes in the form of a deceit, and we are not able to recognize it. We are not able to identify, because maybe the outward form will be of great goodness, but inside there is something else that we see in the results. And that is why when we come under the influence of negativity, that is when we find we also get deceived in our lives, and we have to repent for the same things, which are shown in different forms of character in Ramayana, like Kaikeyi, who came under the influence of Manthara, another evil character, because she tried to show so much of love and affection towards her. So definitely, that is when she had to repent throughout her lives. In the present time, we find that we can see the form of Ravan, where Ravan means the negative and impure actions conducted by human beings according to the past sanskaras. And when one believes in taking up a positive path, then it is like challenging the negative powers which are influencing their own self, and one has to fight to conquer those evil forces, the negative powers, and which will take a very violent form also before taking leave of it. So, this is why it is shown that Ravan took various forms while fighting with Ram also. The negativity emerges in a huge form, and that is when human beings get afraid in their life and they are not able to challenge those different forms of negativities that come up in life. The external information that we find is collected by the sense organs, and the perceptions turn the understanding into sanskaras, and on the basis of these sanskaras, the individual tries to perform actions. By controlling the sense organs and disciplining of the mind with the help of the wisdom, we are able to take proper decisions in life. And thereafter we are able to lead a happy life. After continuous practice of disciplining the mind, one is able to dispel the ignorance that is prevailing in his life, and is able to discriminate between the good and evil at every step. This is the secret of life. So we have to discipline the mind, and we can do this disciplining by taking the help of wisdom, the spiritual wisdom. Therefore, the one who has spirituality in his life is portrayed as Dasrath. Dasrath is the one who is able to command his 10 senses. Das-rath. Das means 10, and Rath means the chariot. This body is like a chariot with 10 organs. 5 physical sense organs and 5 subtle Gyanendriya sense organs. So when we have command upon all the 10 sense organs, we are also known as Dasrath. The body is the chariot with the 10 horses. The organs are very much like the horses. So once we are able to control the sense organs, we are able to develop a very good intellect, or we are able to develop the wisdom in our practical life. Dasrath was such a character who was shown with 3 wives. He was the king of Ayodhya. Ayodhya means a place which is devoid of war. Means devoid. Yodhya means where there was never wars taken place. So it was such a peaceful place. He was the king of Ayodhya, and he had everything that nature could bestow on him. Not only that, but the only thing he was lacking in his life was he did not have some heirs. And that is why he performed a sacrificial fire. And the essence that he got from the sacrificial fire, he distributed them between his 3 wives. And the 3 wives are the 3 specialities that he had in his life. a one who has self-sovereignty, a one who is able to master his sense organs, has three specialities or main characteristics in his life, and these are the three wives, Kaushalya, the embodiment of all efficiencies. Kaushal means efficiency. So the one who is the embodiment of efficiency, Kaikeyi is the one who is the embodiment of all attainments, and Sumitra, who did not have any enmity with anybody, who had friendship with everyone, but that friendship was also not based on attachment, a detached friendship. So this is how, these are the three specialities of King Dashrath, a self-sovereign soul who is the embodiment of all efficiency, embodiment of all attainments, and who had detachment in his life and friendship at all levels. And as a fruit, he had 4 sons. And these 4 sons are depicted as Sri Ram, the embodiment of wisdom; Bharat, the embodiment of dedication; Lakshmana, the embodiment of renunciation; and Shatrughna, the embodiment of cooperation. So a soul who is self-sovereign, who has the 3 specialities, he has a balance in his life between the 4 pillars, which Raj Yoga teaches us, and the 4 subjects that you were told on the first day: spiritual knowledge, depicted as wisdom; meditation means dedication of the intellect towards the Supreme; renunciation means practical application of spirituality, dharana; and cooperation, Shatrughna, seva, service to humanity. So these are the 4 subjects that God also comes to teach us, and how to maintain a balance between all the 4. This is what is shown in Ramayana, that if we take the support of these 4 sons, inculcate them in our life also, wisdom, dedication, renunciation, and cooperation, our lives can become a very beautiful life. And that is why, as these 4 sons grew up, in order to maintain a balance, they were sent to sage Vashishta for knowledge, so that they are able to have that wisdom of how to maintain the balance between the 4 and to function in life. So sage Vashishta is personified as the embodiment of knowledge, who teaches and trains the 4 princes of how to live in harmony. And when they showed that efficiency of staying in harmony, that is when their education was also over. Spiritual knowledge and the spiritual study enables us to maintain the balance or bring harmony of these 4 things in our life as well. And that is why after sage Vashishta, it is shown that when they come back to the palace, sage Vishwamitra comes to take them with them. And who is sage Vishwamitra? Vishwamitra means when he takes wisdom and renunciation with him, through the spiritual study, through the inculcation of spiritual knowledge, the renunciation of the body consciousness of I. When ego is renunciated from our life, we are able to inculcate true wisdom. And this is how we are able to develop an attitude of universal brotherhood in the world. Vishwamitra. Vishwa means universe. Mitra means brotherhood. Then only we are able to develop the attitude of universal brotherhood in the world and function on the basis of this attitude. So this is the attitude that is the result of the spiritual study that we have regularly in our life. It is said that sage Vishwamitra took the princes, both the princes, to kill the evil forces like Tarka, who was continuously disturbing the sages in the performance of the sacrificial fires. So whenever there is the attitude of universal brotherhood combined with wisdom and renunciation, evil forces like Tarka, that is lust, anger, cannot have its space in our life. We are able to completely conquer them and become a master. As we see further, that when the sacrificial fire was performed by the sages and the holy saints, yajna means an act of performance for benevolence for all. Whenever any yajna is performed, a sacrificial fire is performed, it has a feeling that everyone should be benefited through this sacrificial fire. So it is an act of benevolence for the entire world. So when we have the attitude of universal brotherhood combined with wisdom and renunciation, we can become protectors of all the divine qualities by performing the acts of benevolence towards all. And this is how we are able to overcome the evil powers, negative elements and forces which are trying to pressurize the human beings in their practical life. So even one soul can protect the good from the evil in the society if they are able to practice this act of benevolence in their life. So this is how we overcome those devils, asuras, who are trying to put obstacles, who are trying to stop those people who are doing the acts of benevolence for all. There are such forces in today's world as well. Whoever is trying to do something good, they will try to stop him. The evil elements and forces try to stop them. Do not allow them to function. This is what is happening. So, for that we need the spiritual wisdom, attitude of universal brotherhood, then we go beyond and nobody can stop us. As we see further, that when they perform that task so efficiently, then Vishwamitra ji takes them to King Janak's kingdom, Mithila, where he was going to perform a Swayamvar for his daughter Sita. But as they go on their way, they meet Ahalya, who was turned into a stone on the basis of a curse. And when Sri Ram touches his feet, she revives. Today in the world also we find that there are certain people with whom so much of injustice is being done that finally they become stone-hearted. Not just stone-hearted, but the intellect also turns into a stone-like intellect. They cannot think, they cannot feel, they lose interest from life. They are living a life but as if dead of all sensations. So much in a depressed stage. They are Ahilyas because of certain happenings that has occurred in their life. They lost the interest of life. And they lead such a life but without any feelings, without any sensations. It's like a stone only. So when we find that when some people also, they come in the company of spirituality, the spiritual wisdom that they get slowly and gradually is starting to change their hearts and the intellects. And when they start changing, they revive. And they start with that ray of hope in their life that we can lead a normal life. We can come back into this world and we will be accepted by the world as well if we inculcate this spirituality. So the touch of Sri Ram's feet signifies the touch of spiritual wisdom is necessary to revive those human beings who have lost interest in their life, who have become stone-hearted, stone intellect, and they come back to their sensibilities. And after that, when they go into the kingdom of Sri Janak, the daughter, Sita ji, she is shown to be the daughter of Mother Earth. She was found from the earth. And Sita is a complete embodiment of perfection, purity, grace and modesty. All the purities were there in her life. And that is why she was so beautiful. The beauty was of the divine qualities, of the purity that she had in her life. Actually, when the soul comes to this world, originally we are all pure souls. Taking birth on this earth means adopting the body of earth. The body is made up of earth. So we are all the daughters of Mother Earth. We are all Sitas. Because originally the soul is a pure soul, full of that grace and modesty. If we look at a small child, the grace, the modesty, the purity, the perfection that the child is possessing is like Sita, isn't it? So we are all Sitas. The soul is all Sitas. But gradually we lose our purity. But those who are able to maintain their purity throughout their life is the real Sita, which is one, hardly any, or 1% in this world. And who is able to marry purity? Who can marry purity? Which soul can adopt purity in their life? The one who is beyond ego. The one who possesses wisdom. That is why Sri Ram was the only one who could adopt Sita in his life. Adopt purity. Because purity and wisdom go hand in hand with one another. They cannot go without one another. So if we see further, that there was a condition that was kept by King Janak. And the condition was that only the one who is brave and powerful, who can break the bow of Shiva, can marry Sita. The bow of Shiva, Shiva himself is so powerful, so his bow must also be powerful. And what is that bow that we have to break in our life? The bow of ego. If we are able to break this ego from our life, we can also adopt purity in our life. But the one who is not ready to break the bow of body consciousness cannot, because this is the condition that Lord Shiva also comes and lays in front of us. Break this bow of body consciousness and become humble, become wise, and inculcate the purity that is coming to marry you, isn't it? Next, if we see that when the bow of Shiva was broken by Lord Rama, it was shown that in that gathering there were so many other people also. But for ordinary human beings it was difficult to break, who are in the ordinary consciousness. It was not even approachable for them. Amongst them who were poor in character, poor in spirit, for them also it was impossible to break this bow. And it created fear for those who were cowards. And for the egoistic, it was so heavy that it was not able to be lifted up. So that is why the one who has conquered ego, and Sri Ram was egoless. So the one who has conquered ego was the only one who was successful in breaking this bow and attaining purity in his life. So we find in the next slide that this is how Sri Ram marries Sita, or wisdom and purity get together and they go hand in hand. So if I want to get real wisdom in my life also, in the present time, I have to adopt purity first. Then only I am able to have that wisdom in my life. So this both they go hand in hand. Not only that, but afterwards, when the bow was broken, it was shown in the scriptures that Parshurama, who also stands for ego, he was enraged. And he comes who has broken this bow, which was not to be lifted by anyone. Here, there is one thing that really brings us into astonishment. In the Dasa Avatar, you all have heard about Dasa Avatar, isn't it? One avatar is shown of Parshurama, and one avatar is shown as Sri Rama. How can both the avatars be present at one time in different forms? But never did we question this. They were at different times, different periods of the world cycle. They cannot exist at one time, because it is the form of Vishnu only. If it is shown to be the form of Vishnu in form of different incarnations, Parshurama is also one incarnation, Sri Ram is also one incarnation. Both the incarnation, how can they become face to face with one another, and still they are not able to recognize one another? So much of ignorance is there, but hardly we have ever noted such ignorance, such things in our scriptures. And we went on reading them. Parshurama got angry and he came in front of Ram, and Sri Ram with his sweet words tried to console him and cool him down, and showed him his divine original form, and that was when he came to recognize him. How can it be possible? So there are certain things which we cannot digest at times. But actually, whenever we rise above ego, there are certain people who try to pull us down again. But the one who has attained purity, they are able to console others also, comfort others also with their sweet words. with their sweet behavior with others. And this is how he also manages to console Parshurama. Afterwards, there is this character in Ramayana who is shown as Manthra. Manthra means bad company. And Kaikeyi, who is the embodiment of all attainments, who had everything in her life, had so much of love for Sri Ram, but still bad company is such. And the gossips that we have in the bad company, it really influences the mind and intellect also. And when it is influencing, the wisdom starts going. It does not allow the person to realize the truth. What is right, what is correct, what is wrong. And slowly and gradually we are dragged into the influence of the bad company. So this is how Kaikeyi is also influenced by Manthra, and Manthra tries to take hold over Kaikeyi's mind and intellect. So if we ever get entangled in bad company, it is very difficult to come out of that bad company. It is definitely going to influence our mind and intellect as well. And that is why she started putting her promises in front of Dasarath also. A king who had mastery over his 10 sense organs, who was a self-sovereign soul. But Kaikeyi starts bringing or disempowering him also. So the one who was completely empowered, because of the influence of bad company, and she laid these two conditions to send Sri Ram for 14 years of exile, and Bharat should be given the kingdom. So Dasarath was also under the influence of Kaikeyi. He could not say no to him because he had given her the promise. And that is why she empowered him as well. So although we might be having complete control over our sense organs and everything, but there are certain people who get influenced in the bad company. And because there is some other attachment, that attachment will bring us under the influence and completely disempower ourselves also. This is how Dasarath also got disempowered, and he had to give the command that, okay, Ram should go into exile for 14 years and Bharat should be granted the kingdom. So when they start leaving Ayodhya, we find that when Sri Ram, Sita and Lakshman, so wherever there is the influence of bad company and the self-sovereign soul becomes disempowered, the first thing that takes leave from their life is wisdom goes away, purity goes away, and the renunciation of the consciousness of I also goes away. They take leave and go into exile. And this is how that soul starts coming down in life. When they go away, we find that Sumant, the minister, also wants to accompany. And when they leave, Dasarath, in grief, is on the deathbed. Means the self-sovereignty dies from the life of that person. There is no self-sovereignty remaining. He is no longer a master. The mastery dies, completely goes. And with that, the wisdom, purity and renunciation also takes leave, and he loses control over his sense organs and his mind and intellect. As they go away, Sumant, who was the minister, wants to accompany them. Now Sumant, Su means auspicious. One who had an auspicious mind, and so he was able to direct Dasrath also, he was one of his most favorite minister. Sumant, the one who had a very good mind, an auspicious mind, and always used to give him good instructions to perform good deeds, he also wanted to go away with Ram. He said, there is no place for me now. So, our good deeds also want to take leave from our life when the wisdom, purity and renunciation goes and we become materialistic. When we want the kingdom in our hands, the physical kingdom. But then Sri Ram does not allow him. And he says, if the good deeds would also take leave, there will be no support left in that person's life. So on the basis of the good deeds, sometimes he will again come back to his senses, so you go back. You advise him at this moment again, so that he can come back into his senses. So you stay near him. So this is how the wisdom sends back Sumant to Dasrath. Go and give him good advice. He needs you. There is no one to give him good advice at this moment, because Kaikeyi has complete control over Dasrath. So this is how good deeds come back. And Dasrath was so much in grief, and he was like suffering with pain. And there was one karma in his life that we know. When he went on hunting and he was able to shoot his arrow on the basis of the sound, he killed Shravan Kumar. And when he had killed Shravan Kumar, his parents cursed him that you will also die when your no sons will be in front of you, and out of grief, just as we are dying. One deed that he had performed during his life out of ignorance, it was not performed purposefully, it was performed ignorantly. But that one deed also, he had to pay for it. One action does not allow him to enjoy his blissful life. And he is so much in pain and agony, completely disempowered and the prisoner of his own senses, the prisoner of his own specialities. So just imagine, knowingly or unknowingly, how many such bad deeds we have performed during our lives, and how much we will have to pay the price for it. One example is given of Dasrath's life to awaken our consciousness that do not perform knowingly whatever you are doing it knowingly. Otherwise, in the end, you will have to pay the price for it. You will have to suffer. You will have to go into that grief. And you will become the prisoner of your own deeds. So, be cautious while performing karmas. The depths of karma philosophy is shown here in the life of King Dasrath. But what could he do? And this is how he left his body. A self-serving soul, but his end was such. So just imagine what would happen to the ordinary human beings who knowingly and unknowingly are performing so much bad actions. And when the three leave, they leave on a tapasya. Here, the Supreme Father Shiva also tells us, now die from the old sanskaras, from the old actions, forget them. Take a new birth, and this spiritual birth, let it be of tapasya. Then only the wisdom, purity and renunciation will be maintained in life. So when the three proceed, and as they go further, they meet Nishad Raj. Nishad Raj was also a king of a small community. And he arranges for them to go beyond on the further journey. The boat was taken of Guhu. The boatman's name was Guhu. And this Guhu takes him over, helps them to cross the river. Now here it is the story when the Supreme Father comes on this earth. Who is the embodiment of wisdom, the embodiment of purity, and the embodiment of renunciation? God Father has nothing to call of himself, although he is the master of the complete universe still. But when he comes, he takes the boat of Guhu. Guhu means a grahastha. Grahastha means a householder. So Brahma Baba is a householder. And he takes his boat to take us across from this world to the other world. From this world, Kali Yuga, to Satyuga. So we have to cross this river from Kali Yuga to Satyuga, and for that the Supreme Being descends in the body of an ordinary grahasti, and taking his boat, he takes us all across. And he tells us to inculcate the spirituality, wisdom, purity, and renunciate the consciousness, ego. So when he helps us to cross this salty channel, we would say, it is shown in the scriptures that Ram wanted to give him some fare, and for that he took out his ring and was trying to give it to the Guhu, the boatman. But the boatman, what did he say? I do not want it here. Give me there. So after crossing this world, I do not want the fare to be received in this Kali Yuga. But if you really want to give me or pay for the fare, then give me in golden age. This is how Brahma Baba also takes the fare of giving his boat on a rent to Lord Shiva, the Supreme Ram, and claims the inheritance of the golden age. And this is how they were crossed when they cross Ganga and they go to the Triveni Sangam. So this age is known as Sangam Yug. And in this auspicious age of Sangam, as they move further, they meet sage, the holy sage Bhardwaj. And when they meet Bhardwaj at the Sangam, he advises them that you should go to Chitrakoot. So when in this confluence period we find the confluence between Iron Age and Golden Age, in this confluence period, who is the holy saint Bhardwaj, our Dadi Prakashmani, the holy saint Bhardwaj. She gives us understanding. She gives us the power of reasoning what is right and what is wrong. So these holy Dadis who have done tapasya for 70 years, led a life of celibacy, led a life of tapasya, did not enjoy the worldly pleasures. They are the true saints, the holy sages. And they enable us to arrange the meeting of us with the Supreme Soul. They give us the constant understanding and reasoning why we have to do this, why we have to follow spirituality, why we have to inculcate purity in our life. So this is the understanding that is given by those holy souls who have led their life of celibacy and purity, who have achieved so much of wisdom, and on the basis of their reasoning, when the three move further towards Chitrakoot, and as they were staying there, building their small hut, leading a life of renunciation. That is where Bharat, who was away to his uncle's home, when he returned to Ayodhya, he became aware of what had happened. So immediately he could not stay without wisdom. Dedication can never stay without wisdom. So he immediately rushes to Chitrakoot, that I'll bring wisdom again from the jungles. I cannot stay without him. So he goes to bring Sri Ram, or bring wisdom back to Ayodhya, that you cannot leave Ayodhya just because of the bad company. No, you come back. But it is said that Sri Ram was on a mission. He had come, or he had taken birth for a purpose on this world. So similarly, each one of us has come to this world for a purpose. And let us not forget the purpose of life, why we are here. And let us not be drawn into the attachments of somebody, but be constantly aware of why we are on this world. And this is how, after long persuasion, Bharat agrees. And as the command he takes from the Lord, he feels it is the command of the Supreme and I should follow him. But he says, I will not rule the kingdom, I'll just be the representative. Because he's a dedicated soul. So a dedicated soul can never come into the ego consciousness of I and mine. So he is beyond the feeling of I and mine. And then he agrees to rule the kingdom on his behalf. And that is when he takes the slippers of Rama. When he takes the slippers of Sri Rama and puts it on his head and worships, saying that he will follow the footsteps of Sri Rama in ruling the kingdom also. And each and every footstep that was followed by Sri Ram on the basis of wisdom will be at his head. Whenever we agree to follow the command of anybody, what would we say? Sir mathe. Aapki agya sir mathe. Your command is obeyed. So this is why it is shown that he put the slippers on his head to follow each and every step based on wisdom only. And this is how he goes back. When he goes back, it is shown that these three, they move forward. And as they move forward, they meet great saints like Atri Rishi and Sati Ansuya. Atri is the personification of truthfulness. There are such sages in this world, the holy souls like Dadis. They are the embodiment of truth. They do not know how to manipulate anything in this world. They are so innocent and pure at their hearts. They are the embodiment of truthfulness. And Sati Ansuya, the embodiment of faithfulness. Our Dadis are also loyal and faithful. And they are the personification of loyalty, faithfulness and truthfulness. They are running the institution, but with that detachment. And that is why they also have achieved, on the basis of their 70 years of tapasya and celibacy, which they have inculcated in life, they have also got some siddhis, some divine powers. And that is why it is shown that when they meet such souls, they grant them and adorn them with the divine powers. Sati Ansuya granted Sita the divine clothes and the divine ornaments. The divine clothes symbolizes that the the consciousness, the new consciousness that we also receive on the basis of spirituality. So this consciousness of the body is removed, and we adorn ourselves with those ornaments of knowledge, and we adorn ourselves with the dress of spirituality. And this is how they move further, and as they move further, they reach Panchavati. Panchavati is a place where there is so beautiful atmosphere, and so they stay there. But this is where Suparnakha, the sister of Ravana, that is the embodiment of lust and desire, she comes. So in human being's life, the first test paper that we have to cross is that of breaking ego, breaking the bow. The second test paper that we have to cross is bad company. The influence of bad company. Always protect yourself from bad company. Protect yourself from ego, protect yourself from bad company. And the third is adorn yourself with the spiritual dresses, otherwise desire and lust will not leave you. So desire and lust tried to influence Ram first, wisdom. But when wisdom and purity were hand in hand with one another, how can Sri Ram be influenced by Suparnakha, the beauty of Suparnakha? So he is not influenced. And he says, you can try Lakshmana. This was another test paper for Lakshmana also. So Lakshman, when she goes to Lakshman, who was the embodiment of renunciation, how can he be attracted? So he disfigures Suparnakha. And when she is disfigured, they conquer her. She goes running to her brothers. And her brothers are Khar and Dushana. Khar and Dushana means, Dushan means Dush Pravritti, wrong actions and pride, the evil that is in them. So when they see that their sister is being disfigured, insulted, so they go on a war with wisdom and renunciation. So as they try to win them in the battle, pride and evil cannot stand in front of wisdom and renunciation. If we inculcate wisdom and renunciation, we are able to conquer the dushpravritti that comes in our minds also. We are able to conquer our minds completely. We are able to attain that mastery, and this is the true tapasya that is being expected in the path of spirituality. And therefore, they also die. Then we reach the climax of the story where Ravan, Dashanan, enters. Literally a person with 10 heads who decides to avenge the dishonor done to his sister. And having analyzed that these princes are not ordinary ones, ordinary human beings, they have overcome pride, desire and evil, still he tries to attack them on the basis, on the support of Marich. And Marich means to deceive them. So then Maya comes with another form in the lives of human beings who are trying to proceed on this path of spirituality. Another test paper is of deceit. We find in today's world also, this world is the world of illusion. And when it is the world of illusion, there are so many things trying to deceive us. The materialistic prosperities that are surrounding us, in these materialistic prosperities, we find people getting deceived. They go into the flow of the materialistic objects, materialistic comforts. And this is how Ravan takes his turn. Further, when he is able to convince Marich and take his support, he is also shown such a character which is well known in Vedas and Shastras and scriptures. He possessed the wisdom of 10 wise people. He was having great knowledge in science and different arts, everything. But he committed a shameful act of forcibly taking another one's wife. So this is why he was degraded. He was demoralized in his character. So today in the world also we find a person may be intelligent, a person may be possessing all the power and strength and everything, but one shameful act that he does demoralizes his character in the society, and he becomes an enemy for so many people. All the knowledge is just gone in vain. Similarly, in today's world also we find, today's world is also Ravan Rajya, where Ravan was the most intelligent one, Ravan was most wealthy, his Lanka was of gold, glittering in gold. Not only that, but he had mastered the 5 elements of nature as well. It is said that Agni Dev used to cook food for him in his palace. Indra Devta used to fill water in his palace. He had mastered all these devas also. And Vayu Devta used to fan him whenever he felt hot. So he had mastered over the 5 elements of nature as well. He was so intelligent, so wealthy, and he was so powerful. And he was a great devotee of Shiva. But the 2 weaknesses that he had, and that was arrogance, ahankar, and the second thing was demoralization in his character. So these 2 things made him fall. Similarly, in today's world also, human beings have so much of intelligence, and especially in this age of information technology, we have also mastered the 5 elements of nature and captured them into our houses and kept them in our houses. We just open the tap and Indra Devta is filling waters in your house, isn't it? You just switch on the fan and Vayu Devta is there to fan you. You just switch on the gas button and the Agni Devta is there to cook for you. Haven't you mastered and kept them as prisoners and locked them in small buttons? Just as Ravana did. And today also if you see the world at night, the big cities are glittering in gold. It looks like as if it is the Lanka of Ravan, glittering in gold. So it is the reflection of that Ravan's kingdom in today's world. Today also we find these 2 things. Arrogance is increasing day by day. The ego is reaching its heights. And demoralization of character is there in everybody's life.